How does a man wake up in a hospital bed and realize his family is laughing in Disney lines on his credit card? Why did canceling one card, rewriting one will, and making one quiet disappearance end their entire future? This is how I learned that being ignored can become the most powerful position of all. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The ceiling tiles were stained yellow in one corner. I counted them while the machines beeped around me. 17 across, 12 down. The fluorescent lights hummed with a frequency that made my teeth ache, or maybe that was just the pain radiating from my chest. I tried to sit up. A mistake. The room tilted sideways and my vision went white at the edges. Something plastic tugged at my arm. An IV line, clear fluid dripping from a bag hung on a silver pole. I let myself fall back against the pillow and waited for the nausea to pass. The last thing I remembered was the garage. I'd been under Mrs. Patterson's Buick, replacing a rusted exhaust bracket, when the tightness started in my jaw. Then my left arm went numb, then nothing. A nurse appeared in the doorway. She was older, maybe early 50s, with gray streaks in her dark hair pulled back tight. Her badge said Evelyn Brooks. "Mr. Kepler, you're awake." She moved to the monitors, checking numbers. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "Close. Myocardial infarction. You're lucky Mrs. Patterson found you when she did." She adjusted the IV drip. "We've been trying to reach your son. The number in your wallet went straight to voicemail." I stared at the ceiling tiles again. 17 across, 12 down. When was that? Last night. And again this morning. We left 3 messages. Last night. I tried to calculate how long I'd been here. The light coming through the window looked like afternoon sun. What day is it? Friday. I'd been under that Buick on Wednesday evening. 2 days, and not a single visit. "We also tried a Laura Kepler," Evelyn continued, her voice careful now. "Is that your daughter-in-law?" "Yes." Her phone went to voicemail too. I closed my eyes. The machines kept beeping. Somewhere down the hall, a television played a game show. "Would you like me to try again?" Evelyn asked. "No, don't bother." She hesitated, then checked the monitors one more time and left without another word. My phone was on the side table, plugged into a charger. I reached for it slowly, my chest screaming with every movement. The screen lit up with notifications. 47 of them. None were from Ethan. None were from Laura. I scrolled through them anyway. Email spam. A voicemail from Mrs. Patterson asking if I was okay. Another from the hardware store. A text from my neighbor Jim asking if I could look at his fence gate this weekend. And then I saw it. A credit card alert. Purchase pending. $847.52. Orlando, Florida. Magic Kingdom Resort. I stared at the notification until the screen went dark. Then I turned the phone face down on the table and went back to counting ceiling tiles. The afternoon dragged on. Nurses came and went. They checked my vitals, adjusted medications, asked if I needed anything. I said no every time. Around 5 o'clock, Evelyn came back with a dinner tray. Chicken that looked gray, mashed potatoes, green beans. "You should eat something," she said. "Not hungry." "Doctor says you need to keep your strength up." I looked at the tray and then at her. "Did my son call back?" Her face told me everything. "No, I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's not your fault." She set the tray down anyway and left. I stared at the gray chicken until it got cold. Then I pushed the tray away and picked up my phone again. Another credit card alert. This time it was $342.18 at a restaurant called Cinderella's Royal Table. I opened my email and found the credit card company's automated statements. The purchases were listed in neat rows, date, merchant, amount. Wednesday evening, 6 to 47 p.m. 156 Shell Station, Valdosta, GA. Thursday morning, 7:15 a.m. 1,200 Disney's Grand Floridian Resort. Thursday morning, 10:34 a.m. 580 Magic Kingdom Park tickets. Thursday afternoon, 4:22 p.m. $145 Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Thursday evening, 7:38 p.m. 230 Saturn Chef Mickey's Character Breakfast. The list went on and on. Every swipe of the card was another reminder that while I'd been unconscious, struggling to breathe, they'd been having the time of their lives. I thought about Mason, 8 years old, probably excited beyond measure. He'd been asking about Disney for 2 years. But they'd never asked me, they'd just taken. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. The exhaustion was overwhelming, not just physical, the kind that settles in your bones when you realize you've been fooling yourself for years. I'd thought I was building a relationship with my son. I'd thought the money I gave him, the help I provided, I'd thought all of that meant something, but it hadn't created anything except expectation. Ethan expected me to be there, expected me to have money when he needed it, expected me to say yes. And I always had, until I couldn't, until I was in a hospital bed, unable to say anything at all, and they just kept going. The evening shift nurse came by around 8. Different woman, younger, with bright red hair. "How are we doing, Mr. Kepler?" "Fine." "Pain level?" "Manageable." "Let me know if you need anything." I picked up the phone one more time. The screen showed 2 new texts from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Kepler, this is Mrs. Patterson. The hospital gave me your number. I wanted to check on you. The church ladies are organizing meals for when you get home. Let me know if you need anything. God bless." I read the message twice. A woman I barely knew, I'd fixed her car a few times, was organizing meals, was checking on me. While my own son was eating at Cinderella's castle. The anger came then, not hot and explosive, cold and calculating, the kind that settles in and doesn't leave. I opened my banking app and looked at my accounts. The checking account showed the recent charges. My pension was deposited on the 1st and 15th of each month, $1,700. It wasn't much. 42 years of welding had earned me $1,700 twice a month, but it was mine, and I was done sharing it with people who couldn't be bothered to show up when it mattered. I navigated to my credit card account and looked at the authorized users. Ethan's name was right there, added 3 years ago. Temporary, he'd said. His feet had been planted firmly on my wallet ever since. I scrolled through the settings until I found what I was looking for. Remove authorized user. The button was small and gray. I hovered over it for a long moment. Then I pressed it. A confirmation screen appeared. "Are you sure you want to remove Ethan Kepler as an authorized user? This action cannot be undone." I pressed yes. Authorized user removed. A new card will be issued to the primary account holder within 7 to 10 business days. I set the phone down and felt nothing. No guilt, no second thoughts. Just a quiet sense of something shifting into place. The old card would stop working within the hour. Ethan would find out the next time he tried to use it. I wondered how he'd react. Would he be embarrassed? Angry? Would he finally call the hospital? I didn't care anymore. I closed my eyes and let the exhaustion take over. They released me Sunday afternoon with a bottle of pills and instructions to follow up with a cardiologist within the week. Evelyn helped me to the front entrance and waited until the taxi arrived. She didn't say anything about my family. The silence between us said everything. "Take care of yourself, Mr. Kepler," she said when the taxi pulled up. "I will." The taxi driver helped me into the back seat. I gave him my address and watched the hospital shrink in the side mirror until it disappeared. My house was dark when we arrived. I'd left in an ambulance on Wednesday evening, and here I was, 4 days later, coming home to an empty house like nothing had happened. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The coffee mug in the sink, the newspaper on the kitchen table, folded to the crossword, my reading glasses sitting on top of it. Wednesday morning felt like a year ago. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. It took a minute to boot up. While I waited, I sorted through the mail. Bills, mostly. A flyer for a new pizza place. A postcard from my dentist. Nothing from Ethan. The laptop finally loaded, and I opened my email. I scrolled past the spam until I found what I was looking for. Credit card company. "Your card ending in 4782 has been updated. An authorized user has been removed from your account." Bank. "Unusual activity detected on your checking account. Please verify recent transactions." I clicked on the bank email and logged into my account. The transactions list loaded slowly. Thursday, 1-200. Disney Resort. Thursday, 580 aware park tickets. Thursday, 145 Overs Boutique. Thursday, 230 Ware Character Breakfast. Friday, 852 Magic Kingdom Resort. Saturday, 890 Zaire Merchandise. Sunday, 342 118 Cinderella's Royal Table. The total at the bottom made my chest tight again. $7,124.50, $7,824.50 in 4 days, while I was in the hospital. I sat back and stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then I picked up my phone and looked at my messages with Ethan. The last conversation had been 3 weeks ago, when I'd sent him a picture of Mason playing in my backyard. Me. He's asking when we can go fishing again. Read receipt, 3:47 p.m., no response. Before that, me. Want to come over for dinner this weekend? Read receipt, 11:23 a.m., no response. I scrolled back further. 6 months of messages. Every single one initiated by me. Every single one either ignored or answered with the bare minimum. The only time Ethan had reached out first was 8 months ago. Ethan: "Hey Dad, Mason's school trip needs $150. Can you help out?" Me: "Of course. Venmo or check?" Ethan: "Venmo works. Thanks." Read receipt, 9 to 12 a.m. No response. Not even a thank you. I closed the messages and opened my photo gallery. There were pictures of Mason from the last few years. At my house, in my backyard, at the park. Always with me, never with his parents. Because I was the babysitter, the free childcare, the backup plan. I looked at one photo in particular. Mason was 7, holding up a fish we'd caught at the lake. His smile was huge. I'd sent the photo to Ethan. Read receipt, 4:33 p.m. No response. I set the phone down and walked through the house. Living room, kitchen, bedroom. This was my life, small and quiet and unremarkable, and completely mine. I picked up the phone again and dialed the credit card company's fraud department. The automated system connected me to a representative. "This is Ember with Fraud Prevention. How can I help you today?" "I need to dispute some charges." "All right. What charges are you disputing?" "Everything since Wednesday evening." Silence. Then typing. That's quite a few transactions. Can you tell me why you're disputing them?" "I was in the hospital. Someone used my card without permission." "Do you know who used it?" "My son. But I didn't authorize any of these purchases." More typing. "I see here that your son was listed as an authorized user until yesterday. Is that correct?" "Yes." "Mr. Kepler, if he was an authorized user, technically he had permission to use the card." "He had permission for emergencies, not for a vacation." "I understand, but from a legal standpoint, authorized users have access for any purpose." I closed my eyes and counted to 5. I was unconscious in an emergency room. He was called multiple times. He didn't answer. Instead, he used my card to take his family to Disney World. Another pause. Longer this time. "Can you prove that he was contacted about your medical emergency?" "The hospital has records. They called him 3 times." "And you can provide those records?" "Yes." "All right. Let me transfer you to our fraud investigation team." The hold music was grating. I waited. A new voice came on. Male. Professional but cautious. "Mr. Kepler, this is Dennis with Fraud Investigation. I've reviewed the notes. I need to get some information from you." I pulled up my hospital discharge papers and read him the information. Admission date and time. The log of attempted family contacts. "And you're saying your son ignored these contacts and used your card anyway?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." "Mr. Kepler, this is complicated. Your son technically had authorization, but if he knowingly used it while you were incapacitated and after being notified, that could constitute abuse of authorization. We'll need to investigate." "How long will that take?" 2 to 4 weeks. We'll contact your son. We'll review the hospital records, and we'll make a determination. And if they're fraudulent, then they'll be reversed and your son will be liable for repayment. Fine, start the investigation. I'll email you a formal dispute form. Fill it out and return it within 5 business days. Include supporting documentation. I will. He disconnected and I set the phone down. 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks of waiting. I opened my laptop again and started writing down everything. Dates, times, conversations, the pattern of ignored messages, the requests for money that were always granted. Building a case wasn't just about the credit card. It was about establishing a pattern. I worked until midnight. Then I saved the file and went to bed. Sleep didn't come easy. My chest still ached. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw that credit card statement. $7,000, 4 days, Disney World. Monday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls, all from Ethan. I lay in bed and watched the notification count climb. 18, 19, 20. Then the text started. "Dad, call me. Dad, we need to talk. The card isn't working. Why did you cancel it? This is really embarrassing. We're at the park and nothing is going through. Laura is freaking out. Call me." I set the phone on the nightstand and got dressed slowly. My chest still hurt. Every movement felt like I was underwater, pushing against resistance. The pills helped, but they also made everything feel distant and muffled. In the kitchen, I made coffee and toast. Simple, easy. While the coffee brewed, I checked my email. The credit card company had sent the dispute form. I downloaded it and started filling it out at the kitchen table. Name, account number, transaction dates, reason for dispute. In the section marked explanation, I wrote, "I was hospitalized with a myocardial infarction on Wednesday evening. My son, Ethan Kepler, was contacted multiple times by hospital staff via phone. He did not respond and did not visit. During my hospitalization, he used my credit card to purchase a vacation to Disney World for himself, his wife, and his son. I did not authorize these charges. While he was previously an authorized user, that authorization was intended for emergencies only and did not extend to personal vacations while I was incapacitated. I attached copies of my hospital admission papers, the call log from the nursing station, and my discharge instructions. Then I saved the form and emailed it back to the fraud department. The phone rang again. Ethan. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, another voicemail notification. I played it. Dad, I don't know what's going on, but you need to call me back. The card stopped working, and now they're saying it's been canceled. We're in the middle of our trip. We have 2 more days here. Laura already made restaurant reservations. Mason is asking why we can't buy him a souvenir. This is really not cool. Call me back. Not cool? That's what this was. Not cool. I deleted the voicemail and poured my coffee. The next call came 10 minutes later. I didn't answer. The voicemail was shorter this time. Dad, seriously, what is this? Call me. Then Laura started calling. I didn't recognize the number at first, but her voicemail made it clear. Keaton, this is Laura. Ethan is trying to reach you. We really need to talk. There's obviously been some kind of mistake with the credit card. We're happy to sort it out, but we need you to call the company and fix this. We're in Florida, and we can't exactly drive home to deal with this in person. Please call back. Some kind of mistake. That's what she thought this was. I finished my coffee and got dressed in real clothes. Jeans, a flannel shirt, work boots. Then I drove to the bank. The branch was quiet on Monday morning. One teller helping an elderly woman, a customer service representative typing at her desk. I walked up to the desk and waited until she looked up. Can I help you? I need to open a new account. Sure, personal or business? Personal, checking. All right, let me get some information from you. She pulled up a form on her computer and started asking questions. Name, address, social security number, employment status. I see you already have an account with us, she said, looking at her screen. Is there a reason you want to open a separate one? I want to keep certain funds separate. Okay, are you planning to close the existing account? Not yet. I want to transfer some money into the new one first. How much? Half of what's in the existing account. She pulled up my balance. Her eyebrows went up slightly. That's $3,247. You want to transfer $1,623.50 into the new account? Yes. May I ask why? Sometimes it's easier to just use sub-accounts or savings categories. I prefer separate accounts. She nodded slowly and processed the paperwork. It took 20 minutes. When she was done, she handed me a temporary debit card and a paper with my new account information. The permanent card will arrive in 7 to 10 business days. Is there anything else I can help you with? Yes, I need to redirect my pension deposits to the new account. I can help with that. Do you have your pension administrator's information? I pulled out my phone and found the number. She called them while I waited, then handed me the phone. They need to verify your identity. I spent 10 minutes on the phone answering security questions and providing account numbers. When it was done, the pension administrator confirmed that my next deposit would go into the new account. It'll take effect on your next payment date, the bank representative said. Looks like that's the 15th. Thank you. I left the bank and drove to the hardware store. My welding rod order was waiting. I paid in cash and loaded the box into my truck. Then I drove to Jim's house to look at his fence gate. Jim was in the garage when I pulled up. He saw me and walked over, wiping his hands on a rag. Keaton, you're out. Yeah. Patricia said you had a heart issue. Something like that. You okay? I'm fine. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was trying to decide whether to push. Finally, he gestured toward the fence. Gate's over there. Hinge is completely shot. Been meaning to fix it myself, but I don't have a welder. I walked over and examined it. The hinge had rusted through where it attached to the post. The whole thing was hanging at an angle, barely functional. I can fix this. Let me get my equipment. I spent the next 2 hours cutting out the old hinge, grinding down the rust, and welding in a new mount. Jim watched for a while, then went inside and came back with 2 beers. Take a break, he said. We sat on his porch steps and drank in silence. The beer was cold and tasted better than it should have. Patricia wanted me to ask if you need anything, Jim said after a while. I'm good. She's organizing some meals. You know how she is. Tell her thank you, but I don't need it. She's going to do it anyway. I know. We finished the beers and I went back to the gate. By 4 o'clock it was done. The gate swung smoothly, no sagging, no squeaking. Jim stood back and tested it a few times. Perfect. What do I owe you? Nothing. That's what neighbors do. At least let me pay for the materials. It's scrap metal from my garage. Don't worry about it. He shook his head but didn't argue. If you need anything, I know. Thanks, Jim. I drove home as the sun was setting. The house was dark again. I turned on the lights and checked my phone. 43 missed calls now, 27 text messages. I scrolled through them without reading them and then opened my laptop instead. The credit card company had sent a confirmation email. My dispute had been received and assigned a case number. Investigation would begin within 3 business days. I pulled up my bank account and looked at the new balance. $123.50, not much, but enough. My pension would start going into this account in 2 weeks. Until then, I could live off what was in there. The old account still had $123.50 as well. That would cover my mortgage payment and utilities. Nothing else. If Ethan tried to use the debit card again, it would decline, just like the credit card. I wondered how long it would take him to figure out what was happening. How long before he realized that this wasn't a mistake or a computer error. How long before he understood that this was deliberate, that I was done. The phone rang again. Ethan. I let it go to voicemail. This time the message was different. Angry. Dad, what is going on? We've been calling you all day. The credit card is canceled. You're not answering. We ended up embarrassed at the restaurant tonight when the card was declined. Laura had to use her card, and now we're completely maxed out. We have to check out of the hotel tomorrow, and I have no idea how we're supposed to cover it. You need to call me back immediately and sort this out. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is not okay. We're your family. You can't just shut us out like this. Call me back. I saved the voicemail, not to listen to again, but because it might be useful later. Then I blocked his number, and Laura's, and I went to bed. Tuesday morning, I woke to silence. No calls, no texts, just birds outside the window. It was the most peaceful morning I'd had in years. I made breakfast slowly, eggs, bacon, toast, coffee, and ate at the table with the newspaper. Local news. Nothing that mattered, nothing that touched my life. Afterward, I washed the dishes and drove to the public library. It was an old Carnegie building from the early 1900s. Stone, wood, high ceilings. I'd been coming here since childhood. The smell hadn't changed. Books, floor polish, dust. I logged into a computer in the back corner. No new messages from Ethan. He couldn't reach me anymore. But there was an email from Harold Whitman. Harold had been the estate attorney for the welding company I worked for in the 80s. We'd crossed paths on contract days. He was about 6 years older than me, still sharp according to his website. I hadn't thought about him until yesterday when I searched for an estate attorney and his name came up. I opened the email. Keaton, good to hear from you after all these years, though I'm sorry about the circumstances. I have an opening today at 3 p.m. No charge for the initial consultation. Harold Whitman. I checked the time, 10:30. 4.5 hours to think. I spent the next 2 hours researching estate law. Dry reading, but the essentials were clear. The executor controlled the estate. They could delay, contest, and complicate everything. The beneficiary inherited everything, unless stated otherwise. My will was 15 years old, written after Ethan graduated high school, back when he still called me regularly. Leaving everything to him had felt natural then. My only child, my only family. He was named both executor and sole beneficiary. The house, the truck, savings, pension benefits, everything. I'd thought I was being responsible. Now I understood I'd given him another reason to wait me out. I printed out several articles about changing executors and updating beneficiaries. Then I drove to Harold's office. It was in a small brick building near the courthouse, the kind of place that looked like it had been there forever. The sign out front said Whitman Law Office in faded gold letters. Inside, the waiting room was small but neat. Wood paneling, leather chairs, a secretary's desk that was currently empty. A door opened and Harold appeared. He was thinner than I remembered, his hair completely white now, but his eyes were the same, sharp and assessing. Keaton, come on back. His office was lined with law books and framed diplomas. He gestured to a chair across from his desk and sat down himself. So, tell me what's going on. I told him everything. The hospital, the ignored calls, the credit card charges, the pattern of being used, the decision to cut him off, the dispute I'd filed. Harold listened without interrupting. When I was done, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. And you want to change your will? Yes. Who's your current executor? Ethan. And beneficiary? Also Ethan. Anyone else mentioned in the will? No. Harold pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. All right. What do you want instead? I want him removed completely, executor and beneficiary both. And who do you want as the new beneficiary? I hadn't thought that far. I don't know. Not him? What about your grandson? Mason, right? The thought hadn't occurred to me. Mason was 8, innocent in all this. He didn't know what his parents had done. Didn't know he was being used as leverage for money. Maybe, but I don't want Ethan controlling it. We can create a trust. Put your assets in a trust for Mason's benefit. He gets access when he turns 25. Until then, it's managed by an independent trustee, someone who's not family, someone who has a legal obligation to act in Mason's best interest, not his parents. Can you do that? Absolutely. It's called a testamentary trust. We set it up in your will. When you pass, your assets go into the trust instead of directly to Mason. The trustee manages them until Mason reaches the age you specify. At that point, he gets full control. And Ethan can't touch it? Not a dime. The trust is legally separate from him. He has no access, no control. Even if he tries to use Mason to get to the money, the trustee has a fiduciary duty to refuse. I sat back in my chair and tried to process this. What about executor? Who manages the will? We'll appoint an independent executor. I can recommend a few professionals who do this work. They'll handle the estate, pay off any debts, and transfer everything into the trust. For a fee, of course, but it's worth it for the protection. And Ethan gets nothing? Nothing. We'll include a specific clause disinheriting him. That way there's no ambiguity. Can he fight it? He can try. Anyone can contest a will, but if we include a no contest clause, any challenge means he forfeits even the possibility of the trust for Mason. Most people won't risk that. A no contest clause. Right. It says if you challenge this will, you lose everything, even if you would have gotten something otherwise. It's a strong deterrent. I thought about it. Ethan, standing in a lawyer's office, being told he'd been cut out completely. Being told his son would get everything, but only if Ethan didn't fight. It was perfect. Do it, I said. Harold made more notes. All right. I'll need some information from you. Current assets, property, accounts, anything you want included in the trust. I spent the next 30 minutes going through my finances. The house? Paid off, worth maybe $150,000. The truck? Old but functional, worth maybe $5,000. My checking account? Currently divided between the old and new accounts. My savings, $42,000, accumulated slowly over 4 decades. My pension survivor benefits would pay out a lump sum if I passed before retirement age. Harold wrote it all down. Total estate value is approximately $200,000, he said when we were done. That's enough to make a meaningful trust for Mason. How long will this take? I can have the will drafted by Friday. You'll need to come back to sign it. We'll need 2 witnesses who aren't beneficiaries. My staff can do that. And then it's done? Then it's done. Your new will replaces the old one. Ethan is out. Mason is set, and you have peace of mind. I stood up and shook his hand. Thank you. One more thing, Harold said. Do you want me to notify Ethan of the change? Not yet. When? I'll let you know. Harold nodded slowly. All right. But Keaton, if you're doing this as leverage to force him to apologize or make amends, I need to tell you that's not what estate planning is for. This should be about protecting your assets and making sure they go where you want them to go. It's not leverage. I'm not trying to force anything. I'm just done. Good. Because once this is signed, it's real. It's not a threat. It's a legal document that will be enforced when you're gone. I understand. I left his office and sat in my truck for a long time before starting the engine. $200,000. That's what 42 years of welding had earned me. That's what I'd built, slowly and carefully, over a lifetime of showing up and doing the work. And I'd almost given it all to someone who couldn't be bothered to visit me in the hospital. I started the truck and drove home. Wednesday afternoon, I was organizing tools in the garage when Mrs. Patterson appeared in my driveway carrying a foil-covered casserole. Keaton, I heard you were home. Hi, Mrs. Patterson. The church ladies made meals for you. This is day 1. 6 more are coming. She handed me the dish, still warm. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. You nearly passed out under my car. The least I can do is make sure you eat while you recover. I didn't know how to respond. Thank you. There are heating instructions underneath. And if you need anything, rides, help around the house, you call me. Understood? Understood. She patted my arm and walked away. I stood there holding the casserole, trying to remember the last time Ethan had checked if I needed anything. I couldn't. Inside, I ate chicken, rice, and vegetables at the kitchen table, simple food, the kind made by someone who actually cares. After dinner, I checked my email. The credit card company had sent an update. My fraud dispute had been escalated. They'd contacted the authorized user and requested documentation. They'd also requested hospital records confirming my incapacitation. The investigation would take 3 to 4 weeks. Until then, I wasn't responsible for the charges. A month of waiting to see if my son would be held accountable. I checked my bank accounts. The old one was untouched, $163.50. The new one was the same, safe. My phone was still in the drawer where I'd left it Monday night. I turned it on. 3 voicemails. The first was from Capital One. They'd spoken to Ethan. He claimed I'd given him the card for a family vacation and approved the charges. They needed my statement. The second asked me to complete a formal form within 5 business days. The third was from Laura, calling from an unfamiliar number. The credit card company accused Ethan of fraud. Fraud, Keaton. You gave him that card. Now you're saying he stole from you? That's illegal. If you don't fix this, we'll get our own lawyer involved. Call me back. I deleted the message and opened my email. The form from Capital One was waiting, 6 pages asking for every detail. When I discovered the charges, why I believed they were unauthorized, whether I'd approved a vacation, whether I knew about any travel plans, I began filling it out. Question 1. When did you first become aware of these charges? Answer. Friday, November 17th, while I was still hospitalized. I received a push notification on my phone showing a charge from Magic Kingdom Resort for $847.50. Question 2. Did you authorize these charges? Answer. No. I was unconscious in the emergency room and later recovering from a myocardial infarction. Question 3. Did the authorized user have permission to make these charges? Answer. No. The authorized user was added to my account 3 years ago for emergency purposes only. I never gave permission for vacation expenses or personal purchases. Question 4. Were you aware that the authorized user was planning to travel to Florida? Answer. No. I was not informed of any travel plans. I had no contact with the authorized user during this time. Question 5. Did the authorized user attempt to contact you before making these purchases? Answer. No. I was contacted by the hospital multiple times to inform my family of my condition. The authorized user did not respond to these calls and did not visit. He proceeded with the vacation while I was hospitalized. I continued through all 6 pages, answering every question in detail. Then I attached my hospital records, the call log showing attempted family contacts, and the discharge papers showing the dates of my stay. At the bottom of the form was a legal statement. I declare under penalty of perjury that the information provided in this dispute is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. I checked the box and signed electronically. Then I submitted the form and sat back. Ethan had lied. He told them I gave permission, that I knew about the vacation, that this was all planned. All lies. And now it was his word against mine. His version of events against hospital records and call logs and the simple fact that I'd been unconscious while he was buying park tickets. I wondered if he actually believed his own lies, if he'd convinced himself that I'd somehow agreed to this, that I'd wanted him to take Mason to Disney while I was in the emergency room, or if he knew exactly what he was doing and just didn't care. Thursday morning, I drove back to the library and spent 2 hours researching financial elder abuse. Most of the articles focused on nursing homes and caretakers, but some addressed family members who exploited elderly relatives. The pattern was always the same: small requests at first, borrowing money, using credit cards, gaining access to accounts, then escalation, larger amounts, more frequent requests, until the elderly person had nothing left. I wasn't elderly. 61 wasn't old by modern standards, but the pattern fit. 3 years ago, Ethan had asked to use my credit card for a transmission repair. Temporary, he'd said, just this once. Then it was groceries, then gas, then a furniture purchase, then school expenses, each time justified, each time presented as temporary. Each time I'd said yes. Because that's what fathers do. They help. But somewhere along the way, helping had turned into enabling, and enabling had turned into exploitation. I printed out 3 articles and put them in a folder. Then I drove to Harold's office. He was on the phone when I arrived, but waved me in. I sat and waited while he finished his conversation. "Keaton, you're early. Is everything all right?" "Fine. I just wanted to make sure we're still on for tomorrow." "We are. 3 o'clock. I have the will drafted and ready for your review." "Can I see it now?" He pulled out a file folder and handed me a document. Last Will and Testament of Keaton Michael Kepler was printed across the top in formal script. I read through it slowly. Legal language that I mostly understood. Article 1, Declaration. Article 2, Revocation of prior wills. Article 3, Appointment of executor. Article 4, Distribution of property. The important part was in Article 4. I give, devise, and bequeath all of my property, real and personal, of every kind and nature, wheresoever situated, to the Mason Kepler Trust, to be held and administered for the benefit of my grandson, Mason Kepler, until he reaches the age of 25 years. I specifically and intentionally make no provision for my son, Ethan Kepler, in this will. This omission is intentional and not the result of oversight. Any beneficiary who contests this will, or any provision herein, shall forfeit all benefits under this will, and shall be treated as having predeceased me. I read it twice to make sure I understood. This works, I said. Good. I've also drafted the trust documents. The trustee will be Philip Morrison. He's a professional fiduciary I've worked with before. His fee is reasonable, and he has an excellent track record. And Ethan can't override him? No. Philip has sole discretion over the trust assets until Mason turns 25. Ethan can't access the money, can't control how it's invested, can't make withdrawals. Even if he claims it's for Mason's benefit, Philip has the authority to refuse. What if Ethan tries to use Mason to get to the money? Claims Mason needs something expensive? Philip will evaluate all requests independently. If Mason needs legitimate expenses, medical care, education, basic necessities, the trust can pay for those. But Philip won't release funds just because Ethan asks. He'll require documentation and proof of need. I set the documents down on Harold's desk. When I sign this tomorrow, what happens to the old will? It's automatically revoked. This new will supersedes it completely. I'll also include a formal revocation clause to make it explicit. And Ethan doesn't get notified? Not unless you want him to be. There's no legal requirement to inform someone they've been removed from a will. Usually people only find out after the testator passes. But you could notify him. I could, if you wanted me to. I thought about it. Ethan finding out now versus finding out later, the impact of knowing he'd been cut off while I was still alive versus after I was gone. Not yet, I said, but eventually. When? I'll let you know. Harold made a note in his file. All right, tomorrow at 3. Bring your driver's license for identification. We'll sign and witness everything, and you'll walk out with a fully executed will. Thank you. I left his office and drove home. The rest of the day passed slowly. I organized my garage, fixed a leaky faucet in the bathroom, made dinner from Mrs. Patterson's casserole, normal things, mundane things. But underneath it all was the knowledge that tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow Ethan would no longer be my heir. Tomorrow I would officially be done with him. Friday at 3 o'clock, I sat in Harold's office with 2 of his staff members serving as witnesses. The will was laid out on the desk in front of me, 5 pages of legal language that added up to one simple message. Ethan gets nothing. Harold walked me through it one more time. Page 1, Article 1, declares this to be your last will and testament. Page 2, Article 2, revokes all prior wills and codicils. Page 3, Article 3, names Philip Morrison as executor. Page 4, Article 4, establishes the trust for Mason and explicitly disinherits Ethan. Page 5 contains the no contest clause and your signature line. I understand. Once you sign this, it's legally binding. Your previous will becomes void. This becomes your active estate plan. I understand. Harold slid the document toward me and handed me a pen. I signed on page 5. Then I initialed each of the previous pages. The 2 witnesses signed next, confirming they'd watched me sign of my own free will. Then Harold notarized it with his official stamp. It's done, he said. I'll keep the original in my safe. You get a copy for your records. He handed me a folder with the duplicate documents inside. I held it for a moment, feeling the weight of it. 42 years of work, $200,000 in assets, all of it now protected from the person I'd spent my whole life trying to help. Are you all right? Harold asked. I'm fine. This was the right decision, Keaton. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're protecting Mason's future. That's what matters. I know. I stood up and shook his hand. Thank you for this. Of course. And Keaton, if you change your mind about notifying Ethan, just let me know. I can send a formal letter anytime. I will. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and pink. Another day ending. Another step taken. At home, I put the will documents in a fireproof safe I kept in my bedroom closet. Then I made dinner and sat at the kitchen table eating in silence. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I thought about calling someone to share the news, but there was no one to call. Ethan was blocked. I had no other family. My friends were limited to neighbors like Jim and Mrs. Patterson, and this wasn't something I wanted to explain to them. So I sat alone and ate my dinner and felt oddly at peace. Saturday morning, I woke early and decided it was time to start clearing out. Not leaving, not yet, just preparing. I began in the basement, sorting through boxes I'd ignored for years. Old Christmas decorations, Ethan's school projects, photos from when he was a baby, then a teenager. I worked methodically, dividing everything into 3 piles. Keep, donate, trash. Most of it went into trash. I kept the Christmas decorations. I kept a few photos. Ethan as a child, before things became complicated. His mother holding him in the hospital. First day of school, graduation. The rest went into a donation box. It wasn't anger, just detachment. These were remnants of a relationship that had faded so slowly I hadn't noticed until it was gone. By noon, I had 3 trash bags and 2 donation boxes. I dropped them at Goodwill. "Spring cleaning?" the woman asked. "Something like that." I spent the afternoon working on my truck. Oil change, tire rotation, basic maintenance I'd been putting off. Around 5, Jim showed up with 2 beers. We sat on my porch like we had days earlier. "Your son come by?" he asked. "No." "Huh." After a while, he asked if I was really okay. "I'm better than I've been in a long time," I said, and I meant it. That evening, the neighborhood quieted. Lights came on. Normal family life, the kind I'd thought I had. Sunday morning, I rented a small storage unit on the east side of town. 6 months, paid in cash. I packed only what mattered: my father's toolbox, my mother's quilts, photo albums, important documents, things I wanted safe. 3 trips later, the unit was half full. My house felt emptier, but ready. Monday morning, I called the hospital for my medical records. Then I scheduled a follow-up with my cardiologist. It was time to take care of myself. I made a list. Follow up with cardiologist, get medical records. Close old bank account. File change of address, cancel utilities. Find a place to go. That last one was the hardest. I searched online, small towns, coastal places, low cost of living, somewhere quiet, somewhere no one knew me. That's when I found Harborside. Population 8,000. 3 states away. A small downtown, a working marina, beaches. The rentals were modest, affordable, far enough that Ethan would never think to look. By evening, I'd narrowed it down to 3 places, all in Harborside. I'd need to visit first, make sure it felt right. But the idea was forming. Leave, start over, become someone new in a place where my past didn't matter. It felt right. Tuesday morning, I unblocked Ethan's number. Not to talk to him, just to see what he'd been saying. The messages loaded slowly. Dozens of them. The tone had evolved over the past week. First, confusion. "Dad, why isn't the card working?" "Dad, call me, this is important." Then anger. "I can't believe you're doing this. This is so embarrassing. You're making us look like criminals." Then desperation. "Please, Dad, we need to talk. I'm sorry if I did something wrong. Just tell me what you want me to do." Then silence for 3 days. And then, yesterday, "Fine. If this is how you want it, fine. But don't expect me to come crawling back when you change your mind." I read through them all without responding. Then I blocked the number again and put the phone away. The credit card company sent another update that afternoon. "Dear Mr. Kepler, our investigation into the disputed charges is ongoing. We have received conflicting statements from you and the authorized user. To resolve this discrepancy, we are requesting additional documentation. 1. Phone records showing the hospital's attempts to contact your son. 2. Statement from hospital staff confirming these attempts. 3. Any communication between you and your son before, during, or after your hospitalization. Please provide these documents within 10 business days." I called the hospital and explained what I needed. The records department said they could provide a written statement confirming the calls to Ethan, but it would take a week to process. I called my phone company and requested my call logs for the relevant dates. They'd email them within 3 business days. Then I pulled up my text message history with Ethan and took screenshots of every conversation from the past 6 months. The pattern of ignored messages, the one-sided communication, the requests for money. I compiled everything into a folder on my laptop. Evidence, documentation, proof. By the time I was done, it was after 6. I made dinner from another one of Mrs. Patterson's casseroles and ate while watching the news. The world kept turning. Politics, weather, sports. None of it touched me. None of it mattered. What mattered was the plan. And the plan was working. Wednesday morning, I drove to Harborside. It was a 6-hour drive, straight highway most of the way. I left at 6 a.m. and arrived just after noon. The town was smaller than I'd expected. One main street with a handful of shops. A diner, a hardware store, a post office, and at the end of the street, the marina. I parked and walked around. The air smelled like salt and fish and diesel fuel. Boats rocked gently in their slips. Seagulls circled overhead. It was quiet. Peaceful. The kind of place where people left you alone. I found the boarding house I'd seen online. It was a 2-story Victorian, painted yellow with white trim. A sign in the front yard said, "Rooms available." I knocked and waited. An older woman answered. She had silver hair pulled back in a bun and sharp eyes that assessed me quickly. "Help you?" "I saw your ad online. About the room. You want to rent?" "Maybe. Can I see it first?" She studied me for another moment, then nodded. "Come on in." The house smelled like lemon polish and old wood. She led me upstairs to a small room at the end of the hall. It had a bed, a desk, a chair, and one window looking out at the street. Bathrooms shared, down the hall, $400 a month, first and last up front. No smoking, no pets, no overnight guests. It's perfect. "You local?" "No, I'm looking to relocate." "From where?" "Does it matter?" She smiled slightly. "I suppose not. When do you want to move in?" "I'm not sure yet. A few weeks, maybe." "Can I put down a deposit to hold it?" $200. If you don't take it, you forfeit the deposit." I pulled out my wallet and counted out $200 in cash. She took it and wrote me a receipt on a notepad she pulled from her apron pocket. "What's your name?" she asked. "Keaton Kepler." "I'm Margaret Jorick. Everyone calls me Mrs. Jorick." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jorick." "You running from something, Mr. Kepler?" The question caught me off guard. "No, just looking for a fresh start." She nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Let me know when you're ready to move in." I drove back home that evening, feeling like I'd taken another step forward. The room was real. The plan was real. All that was left was to actually do it. Thursday, I received the phone records from my cell provider. The log showed 3 calls from the hospital to Ethan's number, 2 on Wednesday evening, 1 on Thursday morning. Each lasted less than 30 seconds, not long enough to leave a voicemail, but long enough to establish the attempt. I forwarded the records to the credit card company and added them to my evidence folder. Friday, the hospital called. My medical records were ready. I could pick them up any time. I drove over that afternoon and collected them from the records department. 50 pages of forms and notes and test results. Somewhere in there was the documentation of the calls to Ethan. I found it on page 12. A nursing log entry. 11:15, 8:45 p.m. Attempted to contact patient's son, Ethan Kepler, at phone number ending in 4782. No answer. Left voicemail. 11:15, 10:30 p.m. Attempted to contact patient's son again. No answer. Left voicemail. 11:16, 9:15 a.m. Attempted to contact patient's son. No answer. Left voicemail. 11:16, 11 a.m. Attempted to contact patient's daughter-in-law, Laura Kepler, at phone number ending in 8934. No answer. Left voicemail. I made copies and added them to the evidence folder. Then I scanned everything and uploaded it to the credit card company's dispute portal. All requested documentation has been provided. Please proceed with your investigation. I hit submit and closed the laptop. It was done. Everything they'd asked for, I'd provided. Now it was just a matter of waiting. Saturday morning, I started closing down the old bank account. I transferred the remaining balance to the new account, $1,623.50. Then I called the bank and told them I wanted to close it. "Can I ask why you're closing the account?" the representative asked. "I don't need it anymore." "All right, I'll process the closure. You should see it finalized within 3 business days." "Thank you." I hung up and crossed another item off my list. Sunday, I sat down and wrote a change of address form, but I left the new address blank. I'd fill that in once I moved. Everything was coming together. The pieces were falling into place. All that was left was to actually leave. Monday morning, I had my follow-up appointment with the cardiologist. Dr. Varlin was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-40s, with glasses and a calm demeanor. "Mr. Kepler, how are you feeling?" "Fine." "Any chest pain? Shortness of breath?" "No." He reviewed my chart on his computer. Your troponin levels were elevated, which confirmed the myocardial infarction, but the damage appears minimal. I'd say you were very lucky. I guess so. I'm recommending cardiac rehab. 3 sessions a week for 12 weeks. I'm leaving town. He looked up. When? Soon. He frowned, but didn't push. At minimum, stay on your medications, beta blocker, statin, aspirin, and follow up in 3 months wherever you end up. I will. I left his office and drove to the pharmacy for my prescriptions. 90-day supply. Enough to get me through the transition. That afternoon, I started going through my house room by room, deciding what to keep and what to leave behind. The furniture stayed. The kitchen stuff stayed. My clothes, 1 suitcase worth. My tools, just the essentials. By evening, I had 1 suitcase and 2 boxes. Everything else would stay when I left. Tuesday morning, Jim knocked on my door about a trailer hitch repair. Can you weld this? He asked. I looked at it. The mount had cracked. Easy fix. Yeah, give me 20 minutes. While I worked, Jim watched. You've been quiet lately, he said. Just dealing with some things. Patricia says your son never came by, even after the hospital. No, he didn't. That's rough. It is what it is. I finished the weld and tested it. Solid. What do I owe you? Nothing. That's what neighbors do. He nodded slowly. You thinking about leaving? Maybe. Well, if you do, let me know. Wednesday afternoon, I called Mrs. Jorick in Harborside. Mr. Kepler, have you made a decision? Yes. I'd like to move in next week. Next week is fine. Let me know what day. Thank you. Thursday morning, I received an email from the credit card company. Dear Mr. Kepler, based on our investigation, we have determined that the disputed charges were made without your authorization while you were incapacitated. All disputed charges totaling $7,824.50 have been reversed and credited back to your account. The authorized user is now liable for this amount and has been notified. Your account balance is 0.0. Sincerely, Capital One Fraud Investigation. I read it 3 times. They'd reversed everything. Ethan was liable. I sat back and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Satisfaction. Friday morning, I called Harold's office. Harold, it's Keaton. Keaton, what can I do for you? Remember when you asked if I wanted you to notify Ethan about the will? Yes. Do it. Send him the letter. Pause. Are you sure? I'm sure. All right. I'll send it certified mail. He should receive it by Monday or Tuesday. Thank you. Saturday morning, I loaded my truck. 1 suitcase, 2 boxes, my welding equipment. I left the key on the kitchen counter with a note. House is paid off. Do what you want with it. Dad. Then I locked the door and walked away. Jim was in his yard. He raised a hand in goodbye. I raised mine back. The drive to Harborside took 6 hours. I arrived at Mrs. Jorick's boarding house just before 4. Mr. Kepler, right on time. She helped me carry my things upstairs. The room was small, simple, clean. Dinner is at 6 if you want to join. $5. Thank you. I unpacked in 10 minutes. Then I sat on the bed and looked around. This was home now. After dinner, I walked down to the marina. The sun was setting over the water, painting everything orange and gold. I stood at the end of the dock and watched the sun disappear. Tomorrow, I'd look for work. Tonight, I just felt relief. Sunday morning, I walked into the marina office. A man in his 60s was behind the counter. Help you? I'm looking for work. He looked up and assessed me. What kind of work? Anything. I'm a welder by trade. Good with repairs. A welder? He set down his pen. I've got 3 boat trailers that need work. Can you handle that? Yes. When can you start? Today. He smiled. I'm Vincent. I own this place. You got a name? Keaton. He showed me the trailers. Rusted hitches, cracked frames. Can you fix these? Yes. I'll need supplies. Hardware store is 2 blocks up. Tell them to put it on my account. 20 an hour work for you? Done. I bought what I needed and started working. The first trailer took 3 hours. Vincent came by around noon. First one's done. He examined my work, testing the hitch. That's good work. Come on, lunch is on me. We walked to the diner. He ordered burgers and fries. So what brings you to Harborside? He asked. Looking for a change. From where? Doesn't matter. He nodded and didn't push. Well, if you want more work, I've got it. I'll take it. After lunch, I finished the second trailer. By sunset, I was starting on the third. Vincent came by with 2 beers. That's enough for today. We sat on the dock and drank while the sky turned purple. "You're good at this," Vincent said. "It's all I know." Monday morning, I woke early and walked to the marina. Vincent was already there with coffee. "You're early." "Couldn't sleep?" He handed me a list of jobs, more trailers, dock repairs, a boat railing. I worked straight through until noon when Mrs. Jorek appeared with lunch. "Mr. Kepler, you missed lunch?" "I'm working." She handed me a bag, sandwich and an apple. "You need to eat." I ate and got back to work. Vincent came by around 5. "You planning to work until dark?" "If you have more jobs." "Keaton, you're working like a man running from something." "Maybe I am." "Well, tomorrow you're taking the morning off." He handed me an envelope. Cash. 300, 15 hours at 20. I walked back to the boarding house and sat in my room. I pulled out my phone and turned it on. I ignored the messages and opened my email. Harold had written, "Keaton, the certified letter was delivered to Ethan on Tuesday. He signed for it. I have not heard from him yet, but I expect that will change soon." "Harold." I scrolled through notifications until I found Ethan's messages. "Dad, we need to talk about this will situation. I know you're mad, but you can't just cut me out. Call me, please." Then later, "Fine, but you should know I talked to a lawyer. He says I can contest this will. I'm going to fight it." I forwarded it to Harold. He says he's going to contest the will. Then I turned off the phone. Let him try. Tuesday morning, I was at the marina early. Vincent showed up at 7. "You're here early again." "Finishing what I started." By 11, I'd completed 3 jobs. Mrs. Jorek appeared at noon with lunch. "You're good at this," she said, watching me work. "Thank you." She hesitated. "Some people were asking around town yesterday. A couple with a boy, looking for a welder named Keaton who just moved here." My chest tightened. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. Thank you." They were here. They'd found me. Around 3 o'clock, I heard voices at the marina office. Then footsteps. I turned. Ethan was standing 20 feet away. Laura next to him, face tight with anger. Mason between them, holding a fishing rod. Nobody moved. Then Ethan stepped forward. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I set down my welding torch and pulled off my gloves. "Working." "You just disappeared. We've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I know." Laura stepped forward, face red. "The credit card company says we owe them $8,000. They're threatening to sue us. And you just vanished. You spent $8,000 while I was in the hospital. What did you think would happen?" "We thought you gave us permission." "I was unconscious. We didn't know that. The hospital called you 3 times. Ethan went pale. "We were already on the road. We thought it could wait. It couldn't. We came back as soon as—" "You came back 6 days later, after your vacation was over." Mason was crying now. Laura put a hand on his head. "So this is punishment? You're going to bankrupt us over one vacation?" "You took it with my money while I was in the emergency room." "Yes. We don't have $8,000. "Then figure it out. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me? Name one thing." She stopped. "We invited you to holidays. We let you see Mason." "Let me? He's my grandson." "And we could have kept him away." I looked at Mason crying. "Is that what you told him? That I'm the bad guy?" "You are," Ethan said. "You cut us off. You ruined our vacation. You filed fraud charges. Then you left. What were we supposed to tell him?" "The truth. The truth is, you abandoned us." I turned back to my work. "I didn't abandon you. I stopped letting you use me. There's a difference." "Dad, I'm done, Ethan. I'm done with the excuses, the borrowing, the taking." "So that's it? You're just going to pretend we don't exist?" "Yes." Laura laughed bitterly. "You're insane. A bitter, selfish old man." "I might be old, but I'm not the selfish one." Vincent appeared in the doorway. "Folks, time to leave. You can't kick us out. My property. Leave, now." Ethan looked at me. "This isn't over. I'm contesting that will. My lawyer says we have a case." I met his eyes. "Read the no contest clause first." "What?" "The clause that says if you challenge the will, you forfeit everything, including the trust for Mason." Ethan's face went white. "You wouldn't—" "I already did. Contest the will, Mason gets nothing. That's not legal." "It's completely legal. There's a trust for Mason. $200,000. He gets it when he turns 25. Unless you contest the will, then it all goes to charity." Laura grabbed Ethan's arm. "What is he talking about?" I provided for Mason through a trust you can't touch. But if Ethan fights me, Mason loses everything, all because his father can't accept that he's not entitled to my money. I stepped closer to Ethan. So go ahead. Contest it. Hire your lawyer. Fight me in court. And watch your son lose his entire inheritance because you couldn't let it go. Ethan's hands shook. This is blackmail. This is consequences. You've been using me for years. When I was in the hospital, you went to Disney. Now you're paying back that money. You've been cut out of my will, and the only thing standing between Mason and his inheritance is your ego. So, make your choice. Walk away and Mason gets $200,000 when he's 25, or fight me and he gets nothing. Ethan looked at Laura. Laura looked at Mason. This is insane, Laura whispered. This is justice. Vincent stepped forward. Get out, now. They left. Laura dragging Mason. Ethan looking back once, face twisted with rage. When they were gone, Vincent handed me a beer. Family? Used to be. That was cold. That was necessary. I sat on the dock and pulled out my phone. An email from Harold. Keaton, I just received a call from Ethan's attorney. He's withdrawing the contest of the will. Apparently Ethan just learned about the no contest clause. The attorney said his client doesn't wish to proceed. The will stands. The trust for Mason is secure. You're done. Congratulations. Harold. I read it twice. It was over. Ethan had backed down. Mason would get his inheritance, and I was free.